Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today will be Mitch Light. We will talk Vanderbilt baseball. We thank our sponsor, WellSpire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center. WellSpire offers personal and professional development opportunities in a beautiful facility in the Gulch neighborhood. Stop by for an event with world-renowned speakers or host an off-site event that will wow your team or your clients. We also thank our co-sponsor, the Well Coffee House, which turns coffee into water and has a mission to bring clean water to the world. Our news today, presented by Sutherland & Belk, a Nashville-based injury law firm. Sutherland & Belk is committed to fighting for those who've been injured in car, motorcycle, and truck accidents. Check them out at sbinjurylaw.com. Well, Vanderbilt has a game for the ages on Friday night. It beats Louisville 3-2 to advance to the finals of the College World Series, where it will take on Michigan starting Monday. Commodores trailed 2-1 heading into the top of the ninth, but big doubles by Ethan Paul and Pat DeMarco produce a couple of runs. Tyler Brown closes it out in the ninth. The Commodores win their bracket in Omaha 3-0, and again now face Michigan in a rematch of that infamous 2007 Nashville Regional. Our guest line today brought to you by Boll & Branch, which was started by Vanderbilt graduates Scott and Missy Tannen. I've slept on their sheets for years. I've not slept on them now for 6 days as I've been on the road. And let me tell you, I miss them more than ever. I had no idea how comfortable they were until I got them. These sheets are fair trade certified, which means they're made under safe conditions by men and women who are treated and paid fairly. Try them for a month. You can return them for free. But I'm wasting my breath because you're not going to need to do that. Once you have the sheets, get the mattress, which was voted best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That is BOLL. Enter the promo code Vandy to get $50 off your first set of sheets. And one more thing before we go to Mitch. Be sure and stay tuned to the end of the podcast. After Mitch, we will talk with Mark Gent, a buddy of mine who runs Simply a Fan. He's organizing a bus trip from Nashville to the College World Series. He will take care of all your needs, including tickets, travel accommodations, all that. But anyway, good way to ride to Omaha in style and not have to drive or mess with plane tickets. Anyway, stay tuned to the end of the podcast, and Mark will tell you more about that then. Mitch Light joins us now. He is the executive editor at Athlon Magazine. He, of course, is the sideline announcer for Vanderbilt football. Mitch, thank you for joining us. I had a late night, got back to Lincoln about 1, got up earlier than I meant to, but here we are talking about a podcast or doing a podcast the night after, I don't know, probably the most memorable Friday night in the history of Vanderbilt sports, maybe. If not, then pretty close.
Yeah, Chris, that's a good way to put it. You know, it's amazing. You try and put things in perspective as someone who follows a team or a school and what wins are the most memorable. And, you know, I don't think for as exciting and rewarding and every other word used for last night's game, I still would put the Kumar Rocker performance as the biggest night of this season. For Vanderbilt for a lot of reasons, but there's no doubt that the way the game was won, the way the game was played, with all of the drama on the stage, this is just, you know, being nitpicky about trying to take something away from the drama, is that it wasn't an elimination game for Vanderbilt. If that was a true elimination game, then I think that might jump up to one of the all-time great wins in school history in any sport, and it probably still is there, but you know, with the rivalry of Louisville, which Vanderbilt fans, Louisville fans, people who follow college baseball closely know that, but the casual fan out there just watching because it was on ESPN Friday night probably had no idea that the drama that's been in part of the series and the back and forth and postseason and regular season games. So, yeah, just great performances on the mound, and, you know, I'm sure we'll get into this, but just pull up the Vanderbilt stat sheet. Mason Hickman might go down as the most underappreciated. This might be one of the most underappreciated seasons by a Vanderbilt athlete ever. Maybe I'm just not giving him enough credit. Maybe other people are, but his numbers this year have been phenomenal.
No, I agree on that. Mason has got a component ERA, and I talk about that some on the podcast. I like that stat because it takes out like a lot of luck where you give up 3 or 4 seeing eye singles in a row in a bad spot. It basically says if you give up this amount of walks and hit batsmen and home runs and things, and it does this over a large sample size, what would your ERA be? And his has been consistently below 2 all year. That's the one I really look at because it tells me how well a pitcher is really pitching. And he didn't have his best stuff last night and still won. I wrote about that a little bit more this morning in a free notebook. But one thing, I'm not taking issue with what you said because it's not an elimination game or was not an elimination game. But I'm sitting here thinking before the game last night, they kind of need to get this one because if they don't, they probably get Reed Detmers again, and Detmers was not his sharpest in game one and still had Louisville in striking distance. It was a tie game when he left, and frankly, as good as Fellows has been at times, that's what I said from the beginning. My concern was game one, Fellows against Detmers, because Louisville had the clear edge in the starting pitching. You really didn't want to get into that spot again with the bats not hitting as well as they've been. I mean, basically you had the 5-run inning 2 games ago. You've had the home runs by Scott and Martin. But other than that, it's been kind of a blank slate for the offense. I just think, I'm not saying they would have lost it necessarily, but they may have. That was going to be a tough spot to get in if they did not win that one on Friday.
Yeah, no doubt. I completely agree. And, the one thing that with the College World Series is different than a regional, and also the teams are better, so they have more pitching. But the only advantage Vanderbilt really had heading into yesterday was that Louisville had to beat them twice. Vanderbilt didn't really have a pitching advantage. Louisville was in very good shape pitching-wise, as you mentioned, with Detmers available Saturday night. When you get into a regional and you're playing some teams that aren't as good and they're going every day and have to play twice in one day, that's when you really see the advantage of staying in the winner's bracket and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, Louisville was well positioned and their bullpen was fresh and probably should have gone to their bullpen a little bit more quickly. But yeah, just, the drama. And, Vanderbilt played some back in 2014 and 15. The drama of the College World Series, especially once you get to the second weekend, nothing beats or nothing's more agonizing or whatever the word you want to use as a fan as baseball. Like just the pitch by pitch drama. Other sports have their drama and all that stuff, but it's different in baseball, and you're on the biggest stage. I like this game. To me, you'd have to go back. I don't know what the time of the game was. It dragged down on a little bit at the end, but it moved along more quickly than some of the other, especially with Virginia, playing Virginia in 14 and 15, how they would look over, I don't need to rehash that, but how they dragged those games along. I just thought everything about the game yesterday was just well played and just a lot of fun to watch.
The time of the game officially was 3 hours and 4 minutes. I want to ask you how much of it Nashville got to see. I was getting texts from people saying my cable went out. There were, I guess not cable, but satellite. There were apparently some pretty severe storms across the Nashville area, and you saw some tweets about people missing most of it. What was that like across the fan base? Did a lot of the fans in Nashville actually get to see it?
Yeah, our DirecTV went out. I'd have to look, maybe the 5th inning. Actually, our power went out and it went right back on, but then our DirecTV had to, recycle or restart. So we were out. So and then the problem was too, our modem went off because of the power, so I couldn't watch it online. So I missed about 2/3 of an inning in the 5th, but then had my computer queued up because once our internet was back up. So I was fine. And then our satellite went out. It got a little spotty for about 15 minutes, but we had it up online. So I only missed a couple outs. Obviously, I can't speak to a lot of people, what other people, everyone, my satellite could be working fine 2 blocks away. Someone might be out. So I know there were some people who lost power. So I'm sure some people missed some stuff. You can obviously follow it on your phone. Not quite the same thing, though. So yeah, it was not ideal for a night for bad weather in Nashville.
Experiencing a game in person in the press box and watching it on TV are 2 very different experiences at times. I've said this a number of times. Sometimes I miss the things that go on between innings because I've got my head down writing and getting game stories ready and things like that. But my phone lit up pretty quickly the moment Luke Smith mouthed those infamous words to Julian Infante, which cannot be repeated on this podcast. I thought the minute I started getting texts, that was just a really dumb thing to do. I don't know what it looked like from you, and I tend to think people overstate these things, and people say, "Oh, a team is this," and I'm like, "No, I don't know that it is, or this team's not locked in or whatever." But I was getting a lot of texts from different people who weren't talking to other people saying this team looks not focused and stuff like that. I think that was. I can't imagine a Tim Corbin team on that stage being not focused, but a lot of people were texting me saying things to the effect of things look off to them. Things may look off, and that may just be another way to say the opposing pitcher is doing a great job, which he was. But what was your take on Vanderbilt and its approach maybe mentally before and after that incident at the end of the eighth?
Well, I don't agree. People said that they were off or weren't focused. I mean, it's baseball is a sport where you can't really create your own energy. Like basketball, the other team could be making shots or you can be missing shots, but if you can play well on defense, you can attack the boards, you can create your own energy. Football, same thing. Baseball, if a guy is pitching well and you're having trouble, you look dead. You look flat. It's just, that's the way it is. I mean, sure, you can cheer from the dugout and all that stuff, but you can't really create your own energy when you're not producing. And I thought Vanderbilt actually came out and kind of just some text with some friends of mine that I felt great after the second inning. Vanderbilt had 3 well-struck balls. I had the feeling, okay, it's just going to be a matter of time. Well, whether Smith made some adjustments or Vanderbilt didn't adjust or whatever, Smith obviously settled in. So, I'm not buying the, weren't focused and all that sort of stuff, especially on that stage. And I noticed right away Smith, what he did. And, as I tweeted, I said, and other people said the same thing. I was 98% confident that was not instigated by Julian Infante, because if you made a list of all the hundreds of players that have played for Tim Corbin, Julian Infante might be at the top of the list of guys who would not instigate something like that. So I'm all for emotion. I'm all for pumping your team up. But when you start, and I'm not believe me, I say my share of F-bombs. So it's not like I'm anti-swearing or anything. But when you're barking out to a guy like that twice on national TV, I think that crossed the line. I think that's the best way to say it. Emotion's great, but I think he crossed the line. And I don't know if that fired up Vanderbilt. I mean, it's easy to say in hindsight, Chris. Yeah, that don't poke the bear that fired them up. Would they still have won the game if he just ran off the mound and celebrated with his team? I would like to think so. It would definitely become a national story, something that I'm sure Smith regrets. Not sure he regrets. I don't know if he regrets it, but it was it made the last few innings more entertaining, and obviously made the victory for Vanderbilt much more rewarding.
Yeah, the guy that I saw at the press conference did not appear to have any regrets, but I will credit him. He showed up at the press conference and answered questions, and I don't, other than not really talking about that, he didn't duck anything. I think he gave some credit to Vanderbilt, said I was just emotional, those sorts of things. But I said to somebody at the time, because you're right about Julian Infante, everybody knows his reputation around the program. It was kind of like cussing out Mother Teresa.
Right. Yeah, it was just odd. It was just odd. And I mean, I agree with you. I saw the press conference. He seemed, fine there. He could have, he doesn't owe anyone an apology. It's between him and his team and, his coaching staff. If his coaching staff is okay with that, that's fine. You wouldn't expect a Vanderbilt pitcher to do that. Not that Vanderbilt guys don't play with emotion. I mean, Carson Fulmer had his share of strikeouts and maybe bark into a dugout or something like that, but not, sit the F down, get back to the F and dugout. None of that stuff. I mean, that's just, whatever. He did it. He pitched a great game, and he lost his team lost the game. So, Vanderbilt gets the last laugh. I applaud the Vanderbilt players, from Ethan Paul post-game interview. If you watch the SEC network, they had Austin Martin and Tyler Brown on, said all the right things. So yeah, it was just a great subplot to an already exciting night.
Yeah, I agree with you. Vanderbilt has mouthed its share over the years and has maybe a little bit of a reputation for it, but I don't ever see anything like that.
Yeah, and I've seen someone try to compare the Kumar Rocker barking at the Duke coach, and no comparison to me. I mean, that was instigated by Duke's timeout, So I don't want to, I don't want to be a hypocrite and say, oh, I didn't like what Louisville kid did, but I love what Kumar Rocker did. I thought it was different circumstances, so yeah. I mean, it's, to use the old cliche, it is, or it was what it was, and Vanderbilt's playing on Monday night and Louisville's not.
Back to something you said a minute ago, I felt pretty good about things for them too early. Just looking at the stats, and they don't tell everything, and sometimes they don't tell how well a guy has pitched lately. And Luke Smith threw, I think, 126 pitches in an elimination game for them a couple of weeks ago against, I believe it was Illinois State in the regional. Came up big in that spot. On paper, not a strikeout guy, had a 17% strikeout rate coming in. First of all, I want to get to this. I didn't think that he was the kind of guy that would give them trouble. And then Blade nearly got one out the second at bat of the game. Clark nearly got one out to the alley and right the next inning. And then Scott hit a line drive to left that was pretty well stung and is a double if it's better placed. So I felt like after that, okay, they're not coming up with anything, but then the game took a different turn. But I want to ask you, because I could not tell, and I didn't – sometimes they have replays in the press box and they show the strike zone, and you can see pitches pretty well. We did not have the benefit of that last night. There was a lot of complaining on Twitter and message boards about it being a wide strike zone. I don't know one way or the other. What was your take from TV?
There were some missed calls. It was inconsistently wild. I mean, if you look at inconsistently wide, like J.J. Bladay's ball 4 in the ninth inning was clear. It was a ball, but it was very close. And that pitch had been called a strike earlier. If I look back, there was a couple times I was like, whoa, big break there, for both teams. I wouldn't say it was, that Smith got a more favorable zone than Hickman. I think the strike zone was inconsistent. There were a couple there was one that was egregious for Vanderbilt, against Vanderbilt. That was probably the one that got people the most fired up. It was one of those that's legitimately 4 to 6 inches outside, and it was called a strike. So that's probably where most of the comments came from.
The one surprise to me last night, and I didn't get a chance to ask Tim if it was a case whether he was warm or not. Jake Eder had pitched really well. I did not think that it was a mistake to pitch him in that spot, but obviously that inning didn't go his way. I thought that they might go to Brown, maybe with 2 outs with the right-hander up. Again, I don't know if it was a case if Brown was not warm or not, but it happened the way it happened. Eder gives up the lead, comes back and pitches a perfect inning. The next inning, I don't know if unsung hero is the right way to put it because he pitched 2 innings, gave up the only 2 runs, but Jake Eder really rebounded really well in a huge spot there and then allowed them to get to Brown to only have to throw 16 pitches in the ninth.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in fact, I'm looking through my phone because I just texted a friend that said, underrated part of the night was Eder's shutdown 8th inning. And a little bit of bad luck. He gave up the leadoff double, threw a fastball, and they hit him. But, I think that the hit that gave them, that tied it up, was kind of a jam. Guy got jammed, didn't hit it very hard. Then obviously, the throwing error and all that stuff. So, yeah, Eder hasn't pitched in a while. For the most part, he's been very good this year. And looking right now, 2.97 ERA, 36 innings, 26 hits, 37 strikeouts. Obviously, the walks are all high. But when he's on, he's very good. He's a guy that obviously hope this doesn't happen, but if one of the starters doesn't have it in the finals, you could put him in and he'd throw you 6 shutout innings like he did in the SEC championship game. That basically he kept Vanderbilt in the game there. So he's a valuable swing guy. Interesting to see what happens to him next year. But one thing I wanted to say at the outset: this game, baseball is the most random of games, and this one, for both teams, just proves just how much luck is involved. Game of inches. Both teams scored runs. Some runs on a hard hit ball, but some runs on not hard hit balls and balls that were fair by an inch or two. And it was just to me, this game, because it was so tight and runs were at a premium, just proved sometimes how random baseball can be.
Yeah, that's an astute observation, and I agree with it because I was thinking that Vanderbilt got some breaks late. I mean, One of the better hit balls earlier in the night was caught by Infante. It was a line drive, and again, a couple inches here or there is the difference between an out and a run or two at times. But I felt like, okay, the ball that Paul hit was just fair inside the line. The ball that DeMarco hit was just fair inside the other line and chopped right over the third baseman's head. I think that luck is underrated in baseball. I mean, I think people that study that maybe don't underrate it, but I think a lot of fans probably do. And I think momentum is a lot of times overrated, maybe more so in pro ball than college ball. I think college ball, I think there's a lot to it because they're young kids, they're placed in situations where they're not used to. But case in point, okay, last night Louisville wins a game. Mississippi State, I think, is 47-0. Well, this is 2 nights ago. Mississippi State's 47-0 leading the ninth, and Louisville walks them off in the bottom of the ninth. Well, Louisville had not lost a game all year leading when it came into the ninth with the lead and then lost that one in the ninth. But just a couple inches one way or the other really did make the difference. And I think Vanderbilt probably caught more of its share breaks than not in that one. But I sure thought last night, when that ball hits the bag and hops over Infante's head, I'm having like Bill Buckner thoughts and stuff like that. But boy, credit Tyler Brown for nailing it down from there.
Yeah, 2 things. I'm not that I don't worry about things as I usually do, but I've never been more confident in a pitcher. Like I know they had a runner on second base, and like we just talked about, you can have blue pits and stuff, but I was extremely confident in Tyler Brown that they would not get a good swing. He has been on such a roll. This is something that I've been meaning to do. Look up Tyler Brown's stats this year, and I know every game counts, but remove the first game of the year or whatever, that first weekend game of the year, remove the Arkansas game and remove the Indiana State game. Like when he doesn't get hit hard, like he's unhittable. I know that's kind of contradictory.
No, he is. I think he's given up, I believe, Mitch, this is from memory, I think he gave up 2 or 3 against TCU. He gave up 5 against Arkansas and 4 against Indiana State. And I think that he's given up 1 run out of that, outside of those.
12 runs for the season.
Yeah, so, that's it, basically.
Yeah. So I've watched this play several times, and I can't tell, and I don't think it would have made a difference because I don't know if he would have got it. But go back and look at DeMarco's chopper. It looks like the third baseman almost pulls his glove down, like he didn't really realize what was going on because he thought it was going to be a foul ball and either was trying to deke the ump or didn't realize that it doesn't matter where it lands, it matters where it goes over the base. Because he definitely lowers his glove at the top of his jump. Maybe it's because he couldn't get it. But to me, it almost looks like he's letting, like when someone lets the ball go foul on a bunt, that he moves his glove because he thinks it's going to be foul. So, I mean, the ball landed in fair territory anyway, so it didn't matter. But I would just be curious to see if you agree a little later when you go back and look at that play.
It's funny. I actually recorded that from my phone from the press box. I've not had time to go back and look at it yet, so I haven't really noticed. But it just that was one of those games last night where there's so many moments that big things happen that you kind of forget about things like that. And like there was a play that Ethan Paul cut a runner down at home, and Harrison Ray's decision to take third.
Yes,
on the and I thought live the minute he turned was like, don't do it. and when throws come in, it's like he's going to be out, but he wasn't. There were so many moments like that. In fact, it not even occurred to me to watch that play for what you said, because there were just so many sequences like that last night, and so many stretches that it just was. It was a classic game because there were so many pivotal moments like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that, I think we can't, they obviously came back and scored 2 runs, but that Ethan Paul play is not, it's a very difficult play. You have your reaction time, just stopping the ball. And how many times have you seen watching baseball where the ball's hit the infielder, but the throw is rushed or the catcher's rushed? That's a very, very difficult play to complete in basically all 3 facets: stopping the ball, making a good throw, and then the tag. So yeah, it was just for a low scoring game, for a 3-2 game, had a lot to discuss, a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, baseball is so interesting from a psychological perspective because you want to have time to make a play, but sometimes if you have a little too much time and ask Edouard Julian at Auburn about this, because he gagged away that Mississippi State game. All he has to do is make a simple throw to first that he's made hundreds of times, and it's such an easy play. He thinks about it, and I think, triple clutches and then throws it over the first baseman's head and ends up opening the floodgates for State to win that game. But I thought with Paul, it was kind of the same thing. It was not a close play at home, but it's one of those plays you got just enough time to think about in that spot that you could have very easily come unraveled and made a bad throw, and he didn't. And I think that's one thing that's kind of underappreciated about this team, is it makes that play so often where you see just human nature get the best of people in spots. And I think that's probably where senior leadership and experience comes into play.
Yeah, totally agree. Just he was calm, and this team, the infield will make an occasional throwing error, to first, but other than that, it's been very good defensively. Obviously, Harry Ray has made, I probably 10 just wow plays at second base in the past month alone, and has really solidified. Like, I don't think going forward, I don't see a scenario where you can take him off of second base next year. And, we can talk about that later, obviously different podcasts, but, Austin Martin has solidified himself as a very good third baseman, and Harrison Ray has solidified himself as a very good second baseman. And they kind of just fell into that. Corbin's kind of admitted, I think they started, obviously switched, and earlier in the year when Austin Martin got suspended for those few games, they moved Harrison Ray to second, and they found something, and both those guys had very good defensive seasons.
Let's go to the mailbag today. We've got a lot of questions there. I'll try to keep it to a minimum here and get through this, because I know you have things to do today. But we'll touch, I think, on basically all of them. Sure. Our mailbag is sponsored by Vanderbilt fan and independent insurance agent Josh Minton of Brentwood. Are you in the market for auto, motorcycle, home, renters, or landlord insurance? What about life or commercial insurance? Call Josh at 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him on Facebook at facebook.com/JDMintonHQ. He's my insurance agent. Hope you'll make him yours. Dan B. Nash says, how do you see the pitchers being used in Game 1 and Game 2?
I think Vanderbilt's in good position. Obviously, that's another huge benefit of winning last night. You don't have to use Drake Fellows tonight, and then you're kind of thrown off. Drake Fellows will start. Rocker will start. As I mentioned earlier, if Fellows gets into any kind of trouble, Jake Eder would be my first long guy. Ethan Smith has not been used in the College World Series. Zach King has been used in a short amount of time, but I think Vanderbilt's in great position, has gotten, other than Drake Fellows' start against Duke, has gotten exceptional starting pitching in the postseason, dating back to the regional, even the SEC tournament. Raby obviously didn't pitch well, but the starting pitching has been outstanding. So I don't think there's any issues. The only issue, Chris, that I see going forward is how much in a Game 3, if need be, how much could Mason Hickman give them? He would have 4 days off, and he's a big kid. He only threw 90 pitches last night. I think he'd no doubt be your starter, but I don't know if he's a guy you could ride to another 100 pitches that day.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that. I don't know what to say other than what you said there. I think that's a pretty good summation of it. Let's see. Dan B. Nash also wants to know, did you ever encounter a pitcher swearing at opposing batters without any recourse during your VU days? And predictions, does VU get it done in 2 or 3? That's a little presumptuous, but anyway, you can touch on those.
Well, the tone of that makes it seem like I played at Vanderbilt, so I appreciate,
yeah, I know you're pitching.
Yeah,
guys.
back when I was in the 4-hole for all 4 years under Roy Mubert. No, just no. I don't think I've encountered a pitcher behave like that on any level to that degree, and definitely not in college. So no. And if I were making a prediction, I think I would say Vanderbilt in 2. Wouldn't shock me if it was Vanderbilt in 3. And the way Michigan's playing, nothing would shock me. I mean, you get to this point, and it's clear Michigan's playing extremely well, playing with a ton of confidence.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's see. Next one is coming from Raiders 1967 will playing Michigan, a school with a very strong name brand and athletics, generate any extra national attention? I would speculate that Michigan has one of the top 10 name brands in college athletics.
I think it will bring a different kind of audience where if there's Vanderbilt and Louisville in the finals or Vanderbilt and Texas Tech, it kind of creates in that niche college baseball bubble, if that makes sense, where your college baseball fans are going to watch it. Michigan is a huge national name brand, huge alumni base. Now, I was surprised how few fans they brought to the. I was in Omaha for the first two games. I was surprised how few fans were there for the first two games. I expect that will change. There's in Cal Peterson in Omaha, native resident, mentioned last night. There's a huge alumni base in Omaha, and there's huge alumni bases in Chicago. So I would expect that crowd to increase significantly for the weekend. And I think people are jumping on board. I grew up in New Jersey, and there's a lot of kids. A lot of my friends went to Michigan, and it's just baseball's not on their radar. Like I texted one of my best friends who I grew up with who could literally, lives and dies with every snap of Michigan football during the UCLA series. I said, "You watch it?" He's like, "I've watched some. I'm not watching now." And then, I texted him from the outfield seats of the Florida State Michigan game, like "Go Blue" or something like that. He said, "Oh yeah, I forgot it's on." So I'm not saying that's representative of every Michigan fan, but it's probably representative of a lot. But people have a habit of jumping on the bandwagon. Just look at Twitter when Vanderbilt's in the bowling finals. So, you see what happens there. So I think to specifically answer the question, I think it's good for the sport. I think it's good for the sport that Eric Bakich is in the final because he's such a good guy. And there's some great subplots there. But I think, yes, the more people will watch it because Michigan's in the final.
Also from Raiders 1967, apart from the non-coverage of the midday 180, what type of local media coverage will the series generate?
I think the Tennesseans done a very good job covering it. I think I heard where Joe Rexroad's going out for the final, outstanding columnist for the Tennessean. I think, like Adam does a good job. You're obviously out there doing a good job covering it. Quite frankly, I don't listen to a lot of local talk radio. I'm just not into it. I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. So I can't, I'm very, very good friends with Willie Donick. And I know when he has, I listen when they've got baseball guests on, he does a good job there. But there's definitely a buzz around town. I was just this morning, I was at Kroger with my Vanderbilt baseball shirt. A lot of people say, "Oh, good game," just stuff like that. I think there's a decent buzz. The Tennessean does a great job covering it, and that's basically it.
Let's see. Ann Arbor says, with the success of VU comes a constant chirping about how Opportunity Vanderbilt scholarships are used for partial scholarship sports. What are your thoughts about this? Is this just an inherent difference between public and private universities, a reflection of where resources are used, scholarships versus over-the-top athletic facilities, or something else?
Very complex subject. I want to preface it by saying I don't know all the intricacies of how – I know how Opportunity Vanderbilt works, as I mentioned before the podcast. Thanks to Opportunity Vanderbilt, my daughter will be going to Vanderbilt next year. She's a rising freshman, and there's no way we would even consider her going to Vanderbilt without that. So big picture, it's obviously a great thing. And again, I don't know all the details. I think, was it on the who had one of the Vanderbilt blogs had a pretty good description about a week or two ago, pretty good description about how it all works. So it's very complicated as far as how the scholarships works and how they can be divvied up. My short answer is it's definitely an advantage in a lot of cases for Vanderbilt, but it's also a disadvantage. The tuition is a huge disadvantage. Look at in-state tuition at Mississippi State or LSU. I think it's like $23,000. Vanderbilt's $70,000 for the complete package. So a former wife of a assistant coach I knew said they used to recruit high income and low income. I think what hurts Vanderbilt a lot is kind of your middle, slightly upper middle class, where they don't really qualify for a ton of financial aid, which creates still a huge bill for the family if they're not getting a lot of scholarship money. So again, Chris, a lot of times I'm hesitant to speak on this a lot because I don't know all the intricacies. I don't think most people don't. But I would say, sure, it's an advantage in a lot of ways, but just like being able to recruit in-state kids at Mississippi State's an advantage at LSU, and LSU can stash 5 or 10 kids a year at junior, LSU, Eunice, that junior college in New Orleans. I mean, all these schools have their advantages and they all have their disadvantages.
Let's see. Next one is
was that a fair description? Or
yeah,
fair?
yeah. I mean, and I think, I wanted to go to Vanderbilt out of high school, got waitlisted, and it just wasn't going to be a choice because we weren't poor, but we certainly didn't have the money to go there. And I'm sure that it's a lot more expensive now, and I'm sure that happens to tons of people.
Yeah.
So Danby Nash says, if Corbin retired after this season, would Bakich be the first choice of Vanderbilt to replace him? What's the nature of Corbin's relationship with Bakich? Is it close friends or more former boss-employee with the cordial professional relationship?
I think they're very close friends. I think Eric Bakich would be Vanderbilt's choice. I think there are 2 outstanding choices quite in the family. Josh Holliday, I don't believe, would leave Oklahoma State for Vanderbilt. He's from there. His wife is from there. It's a great job. He played there, all that stuff. I think, Eric Bakich, his wife, I'm 90% sure his wife is from Nashville. He met her while he was here. He has all of the same, he's got a lot of the same attributes Corbin has. They built the program together. I got to know Eric pretty well when he was here, and just cannot say enough good things about him. What a good guy he is, and he's had some difficult jobs. He went to Maryland and kind of got them better immediately. But I don't. This is kind of what I heard. I haven't talked to him about it. I haven't spoken to him in years. But the Maryland to Michigan move seemed a little strange at the time, with Maryland still in the ACC. But I think he got some. There were some promises made facility-wise and all that at Maryland that the administration didn't come through. So he went to Michigan, and Michigan has its struggles to compete in baseball, location, all that stuff. But he's obviously getting it done there. I think when the time comes, I think Eric Bakich would probably be the first choice.
Yeah, Eric is a terrific guy. I am so happy for him getting to this point. I had heard a few years ago that would probably be either Travis Jewett or Josh Holliday. I think Josh has got a pretty good situation, has got it rolling at Oklahoma State. Of course, his dad was the coach there. I talked to somebody who's an insider in the baseball coaching profession within the college game probably a month ago. We talked about this, and it may not have been a month, but it was before Michigan got to the NCAA tournament and got hot, and Bakich was who he thought would be the next guy. So I think at this point, that's probably the name if I were doing a hot board today, and I have no indication that Tim's going anywhere anytime soon, but I think that's the name that would be at the top of my hot board today if we did this.
Yeah, a couple things on that. I would be fine. It's good that he's enjoying the success. The only blemish was that, and they've been to the regional in Michigan, but, that he really hadn't broken through prior to this year. So you look at his Maryland, his Michigan, his Vanderbilt want to hire a coach that's only made, 2 regionals in X amount of years. We all know he's a good coach, but I think we can erase all that now. And, I hope Travis Jewett gets it turned around at Tulane. It's been a rough go. I don't think despite him taking over a team that had done really well, I think there was some roster issues when he took over. So, he flirted with the Washington State job, but he's back at Tulane. He's also a good dude. And you might remember this. I don't know this to be 100% fact, but I think Aaron Fitt and the Kendall Rogers of the world reported this last year. I believe that Eric Bakich turned down Stanford, which was a shock.
Did you say Sanford or Stanford?
Stanford.
Oh, my goodness. No, I did not.
I know you know Aaron Fitt. I don't know Aaron Fitt at all. Just follow him. But I remember him being in the mix, and I think the tweets were he's turned it down and he's elected to stay at Michigan, which was a shock.
Yeah, I will see Aaron. I've seen Aaron in the press box every game. I'll ask him about that and try to bring it up next time we do this or next time I do it with someone else. But let's see, last one from Dusty Orleans. If it goes to Game 3, does Hickman start on 4 days rest, or do you pitch Raby and have a quick hook? I think you answered that earlier, but if you didn't, now's your shot.
Yeah, I think you definitely start Hickman through 90 pitches. Hasn't thrown, hadn't thrown in 2 weeks prior to that. Vanderbilt has done that in previous College World Series. I don't see how you can really trust Raby, especially in Game 3. You don't want to get down 2 or 3-0. Hickman's pitched has not pitched a bad game all year. Assuming his arm's fine, I say you pitch him, and then if it's only for 3 or 4 innings, the bullpen has enough arms there. So I would be, if it got to game 3, I'd be very surprised if it was not Hickman.
Mitch, any parting thoughts today as we end the show?
Not really. This is, like I said, we've talked about it as just a real fun night to watch Vanderbilt baseball. I had a great time out in Omaha with my son. Great watching the games, being there, just a great vibe, great scene out there. But it's also fun, being back in Nashville, watching from the friendly confines of the couch. So glad we don't have to watch tonight, and I'll be ready to go Monday night.
I hope that's not your house burning down.
No, I was hoping it was the air conditioning guy coming to. Our air conditioner went out last night, but no, just the fire. We live sort of near the fire station in Bellevue, so we're all good here. Thanks for your concern, Chris.
Yeah, I don't think the AC guys come with sirens.
Yeah, it's not that big of an issue.
Right. Mitch, tell people about Athlon, where they can get the college football preview issues. When the NFL issues come out, I know that'll be coming up later this summer, and tell them your Twitter account.
Yeah, you can find me at Athlon Mitch. Our magazines, our college magazines, are out on newsstands now. Like I say every week, go buy that Keyshawn Vaughn cover. Good-looking cover, great running back. That's our SEC mag. We also have our national mag. Can also be bought at athlonsports.com/store. And our NFL mags should be out this week. No, I think they've been out for about a week or so. So if you're a Titans fan, we got Jarrell Casey on the cover this year. So check that out as well.
Hey, thanks a bunch, Mitch.
No problem, Chris. Take care.
We have a special guest joining us now. This guy has been a friend of mine for about 25 years. His name is Mark Gent. He runs a website called Simply a Fan. They organize baseball trips, and Mark has done this at the major league level for a couple of years. I've been on one of his trips. It was a great experience, and I've been telling Mark for years, or maybe not years, but a year. I said, you need to get to the Vanderbilt market. I've talked him into it. Mark is organizing a trip to Omaha for the championship series. You will get to see all the championship series, whether that is 2 games or 3 games. If you go with Mark, you will not have to drive. You will not have to fly. You will not have to mess with hotel reservations or game tickets or any of those things. Mark, welcome to the program. Appreciate you joining us today. Tell us more about the trip that you have planned, please.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm real excited. We are pulling out of Nashville tomorrow morning on Sunday at 9 a.m. And we've got several people aboard. We're still looking for about 20 people right now to get to charter bus status. But yeah, this idea came out actually from you encouraging me. And then also a good friend, season ticket holder, Todd Cyphers, said a couple of weeks ago, he said, hey, if you take a group to Omaha, I'm aboard. And I got other people who want to go too. So this week I've been just pouring time and energy into all the logistics that go into that. Securing the ground transportation, getting the hotels, researching the game tickets, really just trying to get the information out there that's on my website.
Mark, what are the benefits to letting you handle this as opposed to somebody doing it himself?
Yeah, that's a great question. Anybody can hop in their car and just go ahead and go, and they might save a few bucks, or they could go online. I think flights right now from Nashville to Omaha are like $800 round trip. So for about that same price, they can go with Simply a Fan. And what I do is I take care of all the logistics A to Z. So they just really show up and go. They don't have to worry about, hey, what hotel we're staying in. They don't have to worry about paying for gas or parking or, I'll get the game tickets for them. So really, for a lot of people who go on my trips, it's a matter of convenience. Like, it's a matter of convenience and saying, hey, I would rather somebody else do the logistics, but probably, Chris, more than that, it's the fellowship and camaraderie with other fans and meeting new people. And what I've really found out over the last couple of years is just some of the friendships that come out of this are really special through that road trip experience.
Yeah, one of the other things is just not having to drive. I do it out here every year. It's a pain. I do it because I want to be out here and cover the games, but you run the risk of falling asleep. And I don't know about you, but after I go to a big game, I want to kind of soak it in and take in social media and those sorts of things and see what people are saying. So that's one more thing. Let's say this turns out well for Vanderbilt, you can kind of spend your time soaking in the victory than worrying about fighting traffic and what roads are closed and things like that.
Exactly. And that's my whole goal, is to provide fans an experience, especially for this Omaha trip, for a lot of people who may not go otherwise, who may not want to drive the 1,500 miles round trip, who don't want to have to research the hotels. And, what it allows them to do is just relax, sit back, and let somebody else take care of all the logistics.
Well, and the other thing, too, is this is the first time you're doing a Vanderbilt trip. Obviously, this is where you make your living. You're going to do an excellent job at this. But if you get this one off the ground, we've talked, I know you were exploring the possibility of doing some other trips next year. So I hope that this gets off the ground, because I think if it's successful, and it is, let me rephrase that, it's already off the ground. But I think if you, obviously, you do this to make a living. If you can do it and get enough people involved, I think it's fair to say there'll be future trips to future Vanderbilt events as well.
Exactly. Vanderbilt, they draw huge crowds already at home. They don't need Simply a Fan to push people there. And they have a lot of fans who go on their road trips. But what you've been encouraging me to think about and do, and what I'm already looking ahead to 2020, is how can we mobilize more Commodore fans en masse to Vanderbilt road games on charter bus. So say they play a weekend series at Mississippi State or Georgia or Knoxville, and people are just thinking, hey, I would rather not drive. I'd love to fellowship the experience, and I'd love to not have to worry about doing all that planning. Where I hope to step into that opportunity is to provide them a chance to be part of that adventure.
Well, Mark, tell people where they can find out about it, how they sign up, the prices, those sorts of things, because I know we've got a very limited time window, and people need to get moving if they're going to get to Omaha with you.
Exactly. We're recording this podcast here about noon on Saturday, and by 6 o'clock tonight, we're going. We know that we're going. I got a couple of passenger vans reserved. First one's full. Second one's on the way to being full. But I've also got a charter bus on hold that we get about 20 more people. That's going to bump the vans to the side, and we're going to take the charter bus to Omaha. Again, leaving out in the morning at 9 o'clock. They can find all the information on my website at simplyafan.com. Look under the trip section. They will see the College World Series trip page. All the details are right there, including package, pricing, a lot of FAQs. Pricing, depending on single, double, triple, or quad occupancy, starts as low as $775 for all ground transport, tickets, hotels, and goes to right at about $950. And that's a pretty good deal, we feel like, and we're excited. You can also find us on Twitter at simplyafan18, or you can find me on Twitter, Mark H. Gent, and help us spread the word by posting, commenting, or retweeting that. Also on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, he is Mark Gent of Simply a Fan. Mark, quickly give out your contact info one more time before we end the show today.
Yeah, exactly. If they want to contact me directly, you can text or call me today, 615-579-5217, or email me, markgent@simplyafan.com. And last name is spelled Gent. I always like to clarify that.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Mark. Best of luck on a safe and fun trip to Omaha.
Thank you, Chris. We'll see you on Monday.
You bet. I'm Chris Lee, the host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. We appreciate you listening, and we'll be back with more episodes coming very soon, including one we will drop Sunday with Chip Credit.